so many new pieces to this IU football team.
To me, that's going to set the tone on how you get ready for games on Saturday in the fall.
I would put that Indiana room up against anybody else in the conference, and that's something that we typically don't even come close to saying.
If you want to get total sickos committee about it, there's a position battle at long snapper too.
This is the Hoosier Huddle Podcast, part of the College Huddle Podcast Network.
Good evening and good night. It's almost 10:15. We're here in the late hour on the Hoosier Huddle Podcast after the dust settles on IU's big 52-14 win over Charlotte to move to 4-0. IU used a 35-0 run there, basically from the middle of the second quarter on to put the 49ers away. It was a little dicey there early at 17-14. IU, but they never trailed, and there was never a doubt. And Kirk Cignetti used a really nice piece of coaching there at the end of the first half. I know Buck calls it the daily double, but it was almost a daily triple. He scored 2 touchdowns there in the last 5 minutes of the second quarter, and then scored the first touchdown in the third quarter. So really good performance. Curtis Rourke looked sharp. Offense looked good, basically unstoppable all day for the offense. Defense was probably the shakiest it's been all season in the first half. Missed tackles. Charlotte, who doesn't usually run the ball well, ran the ball well. IU was without D'Angelo Pons in the first half. He played half a dozen snaps in the second half before it got out of hand. Alex, what are your takeaways on today?
Yeah, we talked, and I know Akenda said it after the beatdown in the Rose Bowl last week. But if you had to draw up a perfect start to the season, I think IU did that after 3 weeks, and I think after a quarter of the season or a third of the season now, IU has aced the start. So. Opponent, sure, definitely a factor. Non-conference, like Florida International just lost to Monmouth earlier today on Saturday. UCLA actually played all right in Death Valley against LSU. And Western is real bad. This is a Charlotte team that lost to North Carolina by 18, with North Carolina playing most of their starters. So you say what you want about the competition, but IU has never scored 200 points in a 4-game stretch. They did that. IU has never started 4-0 with a first-year head coach at Indiana. They have done that. So, yeah, the opponent is definitely a factor, and I think
– But this is what teams do. This is how you build the program. This is,
games, sure, but – good teams beat the crap out of teams you're supposed to beat the crap out of. And IU has done that 4 weeks.
Yeah. You don't see Ole Miss apologizing for playing whoever they did. Michigan State played Prairie View A&M the other night. So.
Yeah, look, IU aced the start. And you could say they had the answers to the exam or whatever you want to say it. But you still got to be sly in class and try to, pull the answers off if you have all the answers. So I don't know. I thought a great game again. Defense, yes, definitely shaky. Sleepy was the word I kind of used with some texts when the game was underway. Makes sense, right? You come home after an emotional win, cross country. Everyone's talking about how great you are. Kurt Cignetti, Pat McAfee's talking about it. National outlets are talking about it. Everyone's circulating all the IU clips.
Bill Connolly put you in the playoff.
Right. All that stuff. And then you got to play a game at noon when it's 90 degrees against a Charlotte team that's not great, that you were favored by 4 touchdowns in. And I think that showed in the first probably 20 minutes of the game. I think you saw that, especially on the defensive side. Offense could not have been crisper. I think that's been kind of the theme all season so far, beyond a couple drives early in the FIU game. I mean, I don't know what else to say about Mike Shanahan at this point. He is scheming guys open. He's adjusting to game situations, and he
He's
is
not that
calling
good. You
plays
do
that
not
are
want to hire him as a head
no,
coach or an
he's
offensive coordinator.
yeah.
He's nothing. It is Kirk Cignetti's offense, as he
Yes,
said in
yeah,
the post-game press conference today.
yeah, yeah. Shanahan will totally destroy your program, so I wouldn't even get near him personally.
No, wouldn't even call.
Yeah, but I mean, look, we've been screaming for this for 3 or 4 seasons now. Just taking what is there on defense, scheming things open, and if you see adjustments by the defense or things that pop up during the games, pattern or, frequent play calls, you scheme against it. And that's what IU's done in all 4 games now again. And I think that's something you can take away regardless of the opponent is you have seen competent, crisp offensive football. And for the most part, you've seen really good special teams play as well. I think you clean up just a little bit of some lulls the defense have. Maybe that's depth. Maybe that's lack of attention. Either way, obviously some stuff you want to correct before Big Ten play really gets underway a week from today against Maryland. But yeah, Sammy, I thought, again, a game you dominated. 4 scholarship running backs had a touchdown in this game. Rourke was terrific again. You saw a little bit of the punt return game come to life. Just an outstanding game. And like Signetti said in his post-game interview on the field, no major injuries. So you're heading into Maryland full sail ahead, really full steam ahead. You should be feeling good. You should be confident. I think you've kind of established this identity that he's been talking about since he was hired in December, and you've seen it so far. And obviously, Maryland will be probably the stiffest test so far. They're coming in undefeated as well, so
No,
it'll
they
be.
lost to Michigan State.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Yeah, Michigan State. If they hang on, it's a rainy game right now, but Michigan State's undefeated. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, fascinating test. They didn't struggle with Villanova today, but they did not necessarily blow out Villanova, an FCS school at home today. So we'll see. But for me, I think the offense is definitely the story of the first 4 games of the season.
Yeah, that and just, so many people have commented to me that normally don't really follow football that closely is that they look like a football team who knows what they're doing. They're in position, they're not running around, they're making decisions quickly. And when they make those decisions, they're going with it. There's no hesitation, nothing. And, I go back to that 2 minute, around the 2 minute mark of the second quarter, where Kirk Cignetti takes timeout with 2 minutes and 8 seconds left on a third down play, gets the ball back, I think right before the 2 minute timeout, with their punt or right after the 2 minute timeout, after the punt, and it goes down, and that to me put the game away. Then you go into half. I think it was 31-14 at the time, or it just really, really shows you the difference between this staff and previous staffs at IU, not just Tom Allen, but going back multiple staffs to where you haven't seen this kind of efficiency, this kind of operational, just competency
Yeah.
so far. And I know that shouldn't be like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever. But that's where IU football was at, and that's where we're at. Is that you have a coach who knows how to coach football and knows how to do all these little things right, and it's really, really paying off. Another thing I want to talk about, Alex, is it seems to be a different guy on offense every game. Today it was Miles Price in the passing game. You had a couple other guys in the running game with, today it was Kalon Black, who had 7 carries for 55 yards. Justin Ellison had 9 carries for 58 yards. Curtis Rourke was running the ball. He's been the constant on offense, but just the depth and there's no selfishness of, hey, I need to be the guy to get 25 carries and 200 yards. It's okay. Next guy's in, and things like that. And it just seems like this team is clicking on all cylinders right now.
Yeah, 7 guys caught a pass today for IU. Omar Cooper was kind of one of the guys that had been a steady presence in the first 3 weeks. So to your point, Sammy, he only had 1 catch today. Taven missed him on one of those in the end zone late in the game. But yeah, I mean, even targets, even distribution today. Zach Horton, who had been pretty steady all season, didn't have a catch today. So yeah, I think that's great, and it's got to be probably a nightmare to game plan for. Keyshawn Williams finds the end zone again, so 3 touchdowns for him in the last 2 games, which is great to see. Miles Cross led the team with 5 grabs today for 46 yards. Yeah, Price, couple beautiful deep balls. He had that 39-yarder along the sideline, which was great. Surratt starting to turn it on a little. And then Sam West gets into the action. That was a nice little route up the field on the sideline, a wheel action, I think. And the redshirt freshman, the Indiana kid, really showed his athleticism. A lot to like on that. Sammy, I think you would have gone for about 20 yards on that one, but West turned it into 37. But yeah, wide open, great to see.
I mean, I would have scored a touchdown, but
That's true. That's true. Yeah, that's true. So yeah, I mean, great to see. Obviously, James Bomba's still out. We really haven't heard more on him unless I missed something.
no, they
So
haven't announced it was out for the season like they did at the beginning of the year with those guys. So it might be better than expected, but
right.
yeah, he's
And
still
they
out.
kind of
No,
UCLA, they had Tyler Stevens, who's kind of backup swing lineman, shift to tight end as kind of a blocker. Yeah, I mean, if you can get a West or a Brody Foley or somebody to step up at tight end behind Horton, that's obviously positive. But yeah, offense super crisp. Mind if I read you the drive chart here, Sammy? I think you'll actually like this.
touchdown, touchdown, touchdown.
Basically,
James Evans sighting with 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter.
IU had 11 total drives, including the kneel down at the end of the game. So they went touchdown, field goal, touchdown, 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 punt, touchdown, turnover on downs, kneel down. So basically, in the first half, you scored every time you had the ball on offense, and you had 5 touchdowns in a row. And that was the stretch. I think it was 14-10, and then you kind of just turned it on.
Yeah, 17-14. You get the ball back after, I think, with 9 minutes left or 10 minutes left. You get a long drive, score a touchdown there, and then you get the ball back. That's when he took the timeout. You get the ball back with a minute and 56 seconds left, and score a touchdown. You scored 3 touchdowns in the last 10 minutes of second quarter just to put that game out of reach. And looking at the advanced stats of it, you had 4 drives of 70 plus yards. The average yards gained per drive was 48. Average number of plays was 6. Your starting field position was at your own 39. Drive success rate was 90%. I mean, those numbers are outrageous.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just terrific. You doubled them up on yards. Went over 500 yards for total offense again this week, which is great. Charlotte to right around 250, so basically doubled them up there. I actually liked some of what I saw from Ivy, their quarterback, who started the season as their third stringer. He's definitely mobile. He was moving around in the pocket. You saw that cause problems on both of their touchdown drives. So I thought that was a nice test. If it is going to be Billy Edwards for Maryland next week, he's super mobile. So that'll definitely be a test and something IU will have to game plan for. But yeah, I think switching to the defense here, a quiet game. I don't know really what to take from it. I think the sleepwalking and kind of the first 20, 25 minutes of the game was definitely real, like we already talked about. But after it was 17-14, I mean, that was it. Defense definitely stiffened. You saw more intensity. You saw much better tackling. I thought the tackling in the first half overall was really, really poor. Lots of broken tackles, lots of missed tackles, bad angles, that kind of stuff. that's been one thing I've kind of seen a little bit of so far this season on the defensive side. Guys are in the right spots, not necessarily finishing every play. Obviously, it's not going to happen, right? We don't have 12 or 11 like Luke Kuechly's running around out there, but yeah, I mean, got to clean that up, especially with a much talented, much more athletic Maryland team coming into town next weekend. But overall, I think just really solid play by the defense today. Second half was great, really stiff, and like I said, but anytime you can hold a team to 119 passing yards, I think you'll take that. Unless I guess you're the USC Trojans today, but yeah, all of that, and you won the turnover battle again. So +1 today, you're +7 for the season, and you've yet to turn the ball over on offense. A lot to like.
Yeah,
It was good.
yeah.
Jamari
Just put
obviously started. D'Angelo Pons was out with that targeting from the UCLA game, so he missed the first half. Pons did come back, played a little in the second half, but it's good to get Sharp some reps. He had his usual, couple outstanding plays, couple super handsy, bad technique plays. So, guy with a ton of talent. So it's good to get him some reps because you're probably going to imagine you'll need him at some point during this season. So, was good to see him in there. But yeah, Sammy, a lot on the defense. I mean, they played a bunch of guys. I thought that was good. Got a lot of guys some action, but yeah, just some stuff to clean up on defense. Not a ton, you know.
it's all
Like,
correctable stuff, and
yeah,
you want
chunk play wise. I think the longest play they had was a 33-yard run, if I'm seeing that right. But
on a reverse, I believe.
yeah, so you'd like it to not happen, but it's gonna happen. So overall, I think good defensive performance. Was it outstanding? No, but I think that's okay. You got a lot of guys in the game. Everybody came out healthy, and I think not that you were looking ahead to Maryland, but maybe in the back of your mind, some of the guys on defense were playing a half step slower in that first half, thinking about Maryland next week. But that was cleaned up in the locker room at halftime. You could tell a much better performance in the second half. But
yeah, IU held Charlotte to 79 total yards in the second half after giving up 177 in the first half. Fourth quarter, total yards were 18, -2 rushing yards. IU's defense, they didn't have a sack because they came in leading the Big Ten in sacks. They did have 8 tackles for loss, so they did create some havoc. Jamari Sharp, like you said, had 4 pass breakups. Jalen Walker could have had a pick. He had a pass breakup. Amari Farrell, 7 tackles again, a TFL. And you're getting a lot of guys in. Landino played, Snead played, Sedarius Doss played, Fornell had a nice tackle on special teams. Terry Jones got in there, Tyreek Tucker. Bryson Bonds recovers a fumble in there as well. You got Elijah Hardy back in there after I don't think he played last week. Isaiah Jones, 6 tackles. So you're starting to build that depth in there as well on defense. So sleepy was the right term for it. It was a sleepy start for the defense, and you're kind of concerned that maybe this turns into one of those games where Charlotte hangs around, but this staff put them to sleep, right before halftime, and they did not take their foot off the pedal, the rest of the day. So they're going to take it 1 week at a time, and they're not going to get sucked into Bill Connolly has IU as the 11th seed in the playoff, or who's getting votes in the coaches polls and AP polls and stuff like that, or what bowl game they're projected to go to. They're going to be focused. He's laser focused and very efficient. So he'll be laser focused on Maryland. Let's talk about next week real quickly without getting into a full preview. This is a big game for IU, and I think it's a big game for the fan base as well. Today, you're playing a lesser opponent. It was 90 degrees at like 10 a.m., no breeze, humid. Just it was gross. It was gross out today. And next week the weather should be better. You're playing a Big Ten opponent who um, games have usually been within one score over the past decade. I wouldn't call it a rivalry, but the games have been really good between the two of them for the most part over the last 10 years. It's a chance to go, 5-0, 2-0 in the Big Ten. You need a big home crowd, if not a sold out crowd. The weather, the forecast looks much better. It should be a good game. This is, people have preached patience with this and which culture, which is fine. But this is the game that you got to start marketing a little bit. I know IU has a 30-hour, $30 ticket campaign currently going. So whenever you're listening to this, who knows what that 30-hour timer, but this is, you want to show that the program has changed a little bit. This is the game you have to put on a good show for people. And people also have to come out and support this team because this team has earned it. I don't care that, the competition they played hasn't been the stiffest. It is that IU ponied up and paid $15 million to get rid of Tom Allen. People begged to get rid of Tom Allen. They did that. They begged for new concessions. They did that. They got you ice packs and misters and all that stuff and water today. They did that. It's time to, the fans' time to step up now too.
Yeah, definitely. Your star left tackle, Carter Smith, should not be on Instagram begging fans to come to the games. Bad look, obviously, like totally reasonable for him. Obviously in good spirits, but that's not what you want to see. Obviously, it doesn't look good for anybody. I get it was super hot. Again, I was at the opener. It was really, really hot. So I get it if you can't really tough it out the whole game. I understand certain folks may not be able to, but I mean, you only get
this
so
was
many
hotter than the opener.
I know. I get it. It was hot in Chicago here today. But yeah, I think you look at it, this is your only chance in the next 3 weeks to watch Indiana at home. So after the Maryland game, they hit the road to come up to Evanston up here in Chicagoland, and then have a bye week before homecoming. So this is your chance to watch the team for the only time in the next 3 weeks at home. So would highly encourage folks to get out if you haven't been yet. Like you said, Sammy, lots of new stuff to check out. Every time I go back, I think Memorial Stadium just looks nicer and nicer. So yeah, I wish I could go this weekend. But yeah, it's a game I'm really looking forward to. Maryland's interesting. I don't know like exactly what we've learned about them yet so far this season. It's definitely the Ty Felton show on offense. Really good receiver. Roman Hemby, who's one of the better backs in the Big Ten, is back, but Felton definitely kind of leads and carries that offense production-wise, at least. So it'll be interesting to see how they game plan for him. If Pons follows him around the whole game, what you do with that. But Billy Edwards is kind of my arch nemesis. A couple years ago when Tagovailoa got hurt and Edwards came in when I was playing in College Park, you knew Edwards was going to be run first at that point in his career. I knew that, and I've never played a down of football in my entire life. But that was obviously what you could tell he was going to be doing. If you watched a little bit about Maryland or knew a little bit of Maryland, like this guy was going to be running the ball. Couldn't stop him. Just ran right down our throats, won the game. So from that point on, I have vowed to take down a Billy Edwards-led Maryland team. So big one for me personally on Saturday. Yeah, IU's got to be ready. I think this is probably the most dynamic offense you've played so far through the first 4 weeks. Most athletic team for sure. I think UCLA has good athletes, but just in terms of scheme and development, Maryland's got guys that have been around a little while, especially in Big Ten play. So it'll be really interesting to see. I don't think you're going to see the total aerial attack, spread and shoot or run and shoot, whatever you want to call it, that they had with Tagovailoa the last few years. But yeah, Edwards can move, and that'll be a challenge for IU, and one they really haven't faced yet this season.
Yeah, I wonder if you just stick Jalen Walker on him too.
Yeah, I think a spy, contain, kind of shading him, I think makes a lot of sense. Walker's definitely athletic enough to do that. But yeah, we'll see. An interesting one for sure. And another one of those toss-up games, as we like to call it, that we've kind of talked about since March, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, whenever the schedule came out.
Yeah, seems to be the theme with IU football. Is those toss-up games. If you're playing on the margins, you need to win on the margins. We dubbed UCLA as one of those toss-up games. Really was never on the margin. So you'd like to see that kind of be the case, obviously, on Saturday. But IU should be ready to go. I mean, they've appeared to be pretty focused for the most part, especially offensively. And I think you really couldn't have picked a better start or written up or dreamt up a better start so far. So confidence level should be high. I think you've kind of installed, especially on offense, this scheme that you've wanted to. Now it's time to go put it on the field against a Big Ten team for your Big Ten home opener here.
Yeah, and you just hope that the students and the alumni show up. They leave their tailgate. Look, it was hot sitting out at your car too. Saw people from the press box. I saw you guys tailgating during the game. So it's not like you guys were in the air conditioning. You might have been in the shade, but it's not like you're sitting at the on your couch in the air conditioning chilling. So hopefully those people start to come into the game, and that's how you build a football culture.
Yep.
Is you win games. IU's done everything you've asked them to do. They've put an exciting product on the field. It is fun to watch IU football again. It is. And you're talking about, you mentioned it earlier, 200 points in 4 games, right? Hasn't happened. Didn't happen under Kevin Wilson. Didn't happen under Bill Mallory. Didn't happen under Lee Corso or John Pond. This is unprecedented in IU football. So you want
it didn't happen when IU was playing, Welders Institute of Naval Technology in 1904. It didn't happen then either. So Kevin Wilson's teams played FCS schools and easier non-conference schedules as well. This never happened. And it's any 4-game stretch ever. It's not just the first 4 games or anything. It does not happen. So yeah, obviously running it up against Western Illinois is almost half of it, but take Western out of it, you've scored 31, 42, and 52.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and everyone's been like, oh, boring, blah, 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 blah. You can't say it's boring anymore. Maybe you could say that from the FIU game when you had 70 new players to break in and all these new plays. That was not boring today on either side of the ball. So say what you want about, again, level of competition. I understand. IU is at a position right now where that was a perfect non-conference schedule, and that should be the norm moving forward unless you're consistently ranked in the top 10. So, yeah, again, loved it. Great game today. Really healthy, I thought, or came out of the game really healthy. We'll wrap up kind of with this game, and then we'll preview kind of the week we have for you on the site. But, Sammy, kind of final thoughts for me on the game today. I thought offensive line really controlled the game. And you can tell Curtis Rourke is just extremely comfortable in this offense. He's seeing the field extremely well. Even today, stepped up on that touchdown run, knew he had that entire field, had that other kind of scramble out to the right where he picked up, I think, 7 or 8 yards. And then just different kinds of balls he's throwing too. I mean, he's throwing the hard out routes. He's feathering it over defenders to Miles Price. He's throwing it up the seam to Keyshawn Williams. I mean, a lot of different throws you're seeing, and a guy that's experienced is why you brought him in. That's why you got a guy like this to run the show for you in year one of all this new, all these new changes. So for me, those were the 2 big ones that stuck out. Offensive line really, really controlled the game. And Rourke continues to just be extremely cool, calm, and collected. So it'll be interesting to see. I think, not that you want it to happen, but if it happens next week against Maryland, if you're behind schedule consistently, or you throw an interception, or one of your normal guys is banged up for a little bit, what happens to the offense? How do you kind of adjust? That's one thing IU really hasn't had to do so far this season. Again, great problem to have. But when that adversity hits on the offensive side, how are you going to respond? So I think that's kind of a big storyline for me, at least heading into week 5 against the Terps, is if you have some adversity or some consistent struggles on offense, which I'm not saying there will be, there haven't been any signs of that yet. How do you kind of handle those? So I think that's a big thing. And then defensively, IU has done a really, really good job at limiting chunk plays. Today, I think, was spotty with the tackling, like we talked about, which led to some of those. That's going to be key against Maryland, and that's what we've seen the last couple of years, is just huge explosive plays, big chunk plays, blown coverages, missed tackles, penalties. That stuff will lose you games in the Big Ten. And against a team where you'll be, I don't know, maybe favored by a couple points at home next weekend, again, one of these toss-up games. And if it's going to be on the margins, you have to win on the margins. And IU's got to clean up some of that stuff that we saw on the defensive side of the ball today. But again, overall, very pleased with what I saw. Loved this August and September so far, and hope as we move into Big Ten play, we can keep kind of the good vibes going here.
Yeah, an excellent end to the non-conference schedule. You have one more game in September. This is exactly how you wanted to draw it up to start a coaching tenure at IU. There's the first year head coach at IU to go 4-0. And it's not like you're winning games 20-19 and getting lucky. You are hammering people. And you're looking good doing it. You did it on national TV last week. And you're starting to build some momentum, and hopefully that carries over to the fan base. But yeah, you got to clean up the tackling. Maryland, it will destroy you if you can't tackle, or if you blow coverages. We've seen it before with them in that series. But yeah, it's one game at a time. Don't look forward to Northwestern. Just, you got to look towards Maryland and get through it. And we have a big week on the site coming up. We're going to start our bowl projections this week as well. And then we'll have multiple stories out, inside the numbers, or game prime, or just the usual, and then some, to get you ready for this matchup against Maryland.
Yeah, and one kind of weird quick thing on the schedule, I was just looking at it. I'm pretty sure starting with the Northwestern game, like IU's counting Northwestern, and like the 4 opponents after that, they all come off a bye before they play Indiana.
UCLA came off a bye too.
Yeah, which is just really, so maybe the first 5 Big Ten opponents for IU this season all come off a bye before playing the Hoosiers. Debatable whether it helps.
Big Ten never does anything.
Yeah,
anything.
I'm not going to complain about the schedule this year, but if I was going to have a gripe, I think that would be it. But interesting. But we'll see. Northwestern put up 5 points today against Washington on the road. They've lost to Duke. They barely beat Miami, Ohio. So I mean, who knows? But yeah, I mean, Maryland's a big one. You'd want to get that Maryland game, obviously, before you start talking about anything else. You heard all the Fox Sports guys on the Friday night game, Nebraska and Illinois, talking about, oh, Nebraska is going to be 7-0 going to Columbus, and all that stuff. And I was like, Illinois is good. Like, why are you just And I think Nebraska is really good too. So that'll be a really good game in Bloomington as well. But yeah, you can't look at it. I think the Big Ten, anybody can beat anybody. So. Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, Sam, I know will be covered on the site this week, but really excited. Lots of good stuff to get ready for the Terps.
Yeah, lots of great stuff, as always. And hopefully we could get Rhett Lewis on this week to preview the game as well, as he did the sideline report on BTN this week. So thanks, Alex. Thanks, guys, for listening. It's a late night here, so enjoy your 4-0 Hoosiers. It does not happen often. It's only the fourth time, I believe, since 1990 that this team has started 4-0.